Hello, it's Colette. Welcome back to my channel and many blessings to you today. If you're one of my subscribers, welcome back. And if you're a new person, thank you for dipping in and I hope you stay. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the psychic skill called clairaudience and also my one top tip for you to enhance it and fine tune it. But what is clairaudience? Well, you've heard of clairvoyance, which is clear sight from the third eye. It's one of the clairs, which are seen as the psychic senses. So clairvoyance is clear sight, and that's based on the third eye. But a lot of people don't know that there's a very, very, very good potential psychic sense associated with your hearing, and it hits just about here. The area for the third eye is just about here, and what I call my third ear is about 2 inches back and an inch up here, and that's where you might hear things in your head. So you tend not to hear through your proper ears, although that can sometimes happen when it's maybe a forceful message or someone trying to stop you do something. But clairaudience is the paranormal skill of psychic hearing. That means that you're hearing things. You could hear about a person's life. You could hear a prediction. You could hear a piece of music. You could hear a spirit. You could hear your own inner self, your own higher self. You could hear the universe. So think of all the things that you know about for clairvoyance and just switch them to hearing. It's a skill that people tend not to talk about though, because there is a sense of if you're hearing things, you might be going mad. And for maybe 0.01% of you listening to this, yeah, it might be advisable to see a doctor rather than think you've got clairaudience. But a lot of the time, people don't realise that they've got a very good psychic skill that can be enhanced. So to give you some examples of it from my own life, let's just say the hearing gives you an idea of something that you need to know about a person. Now, many years ago in a reading, I was reading for a woman and I wanted to talk about her partner's job. But I wasn't getting any clairvoyance, to see what it was or to feel what it was, and then I was a bit miffed about that because I do like to pin things down. But all of a sudden, in my head, I heard the silliest jingle for "You can't get quicker than a quick fit fitter." I don't know if you have this ad in the US, but in the UK it was an old ad where these men in overalls jumped about saying "You can't get quicker than a quick fitter" and "We're the guys to trust, hey." And it was just a silly jingle that tended to stick with you, unfortunately. But in the middle of the reading, thinking about this woman and her husband's job, this hit me there, the jingle from the telly. So I said to her, does your husband work for QuickFit? And she said, oh my God, how do you know that? And I said, well, I heard the jingle in my head and it sounded daft, but that was how I knew where he worked, was the jingle. Now, that is clairaudience. But also, when you're trying to hear spirit, it's clairaudience that comes into play there, because you don't hear them booming out voices in the air for other people to hear with their normal ears. You're hearing it with your paranormal ears. So you can hear spirits passing on messages, and that's why sometimes when I'm doing the Mediumship Mondays, I'll struggle a bit because some people do come in with their own language, which I may not know. Some people come in with very heavy accents, which is quite good because you can say, I think I've got a Geordie, or this is for someone in the States, or blah, blah, blah. So clairaudience really, really, really helps if you want to develop mediumship. And there's times where there was one time I was in a car and I was just about to go over a hill and this voice in my head said, slow down, slow down. And I did it because it was quite intense. Just as I come over the hill, there'd been, believe it or not, there's been a huge hole open up in the road, and every car that had gone in it had literally had their suspension ripped apart, and we're all at the side of the road now. Yes, I hit the hole too, but I didn't hit it at enough speed that it wrecked my suspension. It blew out one tyre. But I got off lightly compared to some of the other cars. For those of you that are local, you know the road from Coatbridge down to the big M8 roundabout, the M75 roundabout, that's where it was, just as you can pass Bellshill. Anyway, I do digress, sorry. So there I got a warning by psychic hearing. And that is, again, another piece of clairaudience. It's the sense, the psychic sense that can be, that we can poo-poo a bit. We can go, that wasn't real, or that was my own head talking to me. And yes, it can be, but it's still talking. You still are listening. And that's why it's such an important skill. I've always had good clairaudience, and it's something I absolutely love. But I'll tell you a wee bit about it that will give you a clue to my big top tip about enhancing it. Why would you want to enhance it? Well, it's good if you want to listen to your intuition. It's good if you want to be more psychic and more accepting of messages, not just coming through the third eye or knowledge or intuition, that you're actually hearing it. And it's very, very good if you are mediumistic in any way. So here's something I do. When I do the Mediumship Mondays and I'm doing mediumship, or I'm meditating to listen to my guide, I am hearing impaired. And when I'm doing these things, I take both my hearing devices out. Now, why do I do that? Because when I've got my hearing devices in, my hearing's still not very good, but there's background, and sometimes there's background words and all sorts of stuff come from the devices themselves. And I need them. And I wouldn't be without them in day-to-day normal stuff, because I couldn't do what I do in any way without them. But when I'm wanting to listen to my clairaudience and do mediumship, not in a one-to-one situation, but in general, I take my devices out. And the first thing that descends is silence. And, you know, it's a good silence. Those of you that are deaf or hearing impaired out there will know that sometimes that silence can be very, very welcoming. You're not getting caught up with all the massive sounds that come in day to day. Now, certainly I live rurally, but we still get tractors going by. We've got some incredibly noisy cows across the way, and sheep in the side field who are really, really noisy as well. And we've got dogs, etc. So even though I'm in a quiet location, apart from the odd tractor, it's still nice to get the devices out, because first comes the silence. Now, after that comes a background tinnitus, a kind of background hiss. It's like white noise off a telly. Now, first of all, the silence comes, so I can listen to my psychic hearing. So as well as having the silence, I also have a background energy that also gives a sort of odd background energy that would even take other sounds out the picture, and maybe even other vibrations. So it means that my physical hearing is virtually not there. And then I tune in. And I hear my spirit guides, I hear for the mediumship, and I hear my own messages, whether it's my own higher voice, doesn't matter, whether it's the people or whether it's the universe, whether it's a song. You know, if you ever thought, I would like some advice, and you put on the radio and a song comes in. Well, I used to do a thing that was odd, and I think it freaked my first husband out, because I used to have a radio alarm on in the morning when I was in pharmacy, and I tended to wake up just before it. And just before the alarm went off, I normally started singing a song in my head, and sometimes I just started singing it. And when the alarm went off, that would be the song that was on the radio. And it got to the stage that I used to challenge myself on it, and I really got quite good at it, you know. And some of them were really weird songs, but for some reason I must have some sort of antennae, because I was picking up what was going to come on the radio. So anyway, I do have a strongly developed psychic sense of clairaudience, and I know that there's a lot of hearing impaired and deaf psychics out there that actually are really, really good. And you know that they're tuning in another skill higher and higher and higher. And I think that's a gift, because if you lose one sense, it's nice to have it replaced by the psychic sense in the same way. So anyway, that's clairaudience, and that's how I use it. And the big clue to my one main tip is that when I want to use it for myself and I'm not in the middle of a reading or blah blah blah, but it's mediumship, etc., the one thing I do is take my hearing devices out, and therefore I go into silence. So that's my tip: silence. If you want to listen to your hearing, your psychic hearing, what you have to do is kind of tune out your physical hearing a bit. And I don't mean in bad ways, but first of all, I would say get to know what silence sounds like with your physical ears. And when you're in that silence, it will not be totally silent if you have hearing, but maybe in the middle of it, in a quiet place, you'll hear a bird call, or you'll hear background noise, or you'll hear something on the radio. And that's when you start to tune it in. So the next step is then you've sort of tuned in your outer hearing, then bring the silence down and see what you hear. And when you hear it in your third ear, as such, that will be you fine tuning. So every day, every week, give yourself a time of silence where you can start to hear your inner thoughts and your own clairaudience, because in doing that, you will use one major tip to develop clairaudience and then to continue to fine-tune it. Hope you liked this video. If you do, give me a thumbs up and click the wee button here on my face and subscribe, and hit the wee bell as well, and then you'll miss nothing. I've enjoyed this. Let me know if you have clairaudience and how it served you well, or if you want to develop it. It's a wonderful skill to have. Another way to see the post date, because it's all going to go crazy with the dogs again, but enjoy your day and practice your clairaudience. Bye now.